Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, I should say. Good evening, good morning, good joyous Vesak. So we are still on the part of the full moon that still hasn't quite yet elapsed. So it's very good that we could have this teaching tonight on on the full moon of Vesak month. And of course, the pan-Buddhist community in the world celebrate the Vesak on the full moon in May, and that was last night, and so. And usually the day before and day after is considered to be the day middle. So therefore, we should pretend that we are also celebrating Vesak, not in some cultural activities of going on some kind of parade or a lot of formal presentations and so on, but nevertheless, really looking in the teachings, which we have been doing every week. So it's good to have everyone's companion. So let's do the prayers as usual in our respect and deep devotion to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, which all Buddhist gatherings do start their session with that. Very, very important ritual, but even more important, the substance. And therefore, we have good reason to renew our refuge and bodhicitta by doing these prayers before we commence the teachings. Oyenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Aitere Vijayaladama by virtue Ajevendala Ajare Buddha Vajra and Abu Dharma Asanga Ajere Vijayaladama by virtue Ajevendala Ajare Buddha Vajra and Abu Dharma Asanga Ajere Vijayaladama Bhavaja Ajevendala Ajare Buddha Vajra. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never power from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, but those that fall. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those that fall. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never buy from the happiness that no suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from attachment, and never to those that So, thank you once again, everybody, for joining and giving your valuable time to hopefully even more valuable learning and studying, that our time will be greatly benefited. And we have been going through these teachings, quite a few sessions. Today we are now starting on the second chapter of the Uttaratantra. Uttaratantra is a very famous work by Asanga, but because it is so good and so important, Asanga could not credit that to himself as the author. And then instead he gave the credit to this mysterious Maitreya, who wasn't meant to be showing in the world just yet, but anyway. So Asanga is very gracious to write this work on the basis of Shakyamuni Buddha Sutras, and nevertheless he said this all taught by Maitreya to him in heaven, of course. Just try to make a mystical slant to the origin of the text. I think that that's it's very, very beautiful from his own side. But for us as a people learning to this, we people always talk about Maitreya's teaching, you know. And then we say, who's Maitreya? Maitreya is future Buddha. But he's already taught. What did he teach? Shakyamuni Sutra. So therefore, it doesn't quite make sense that it's a Maitreya's teachings. Because Shakyamuni, then they have to justify that Maitreya has come to teach what Shakyamuni wasn't able to teach. Is that right? Or couldn't teach? Or he left out some teaching? Is that so? What's the justification? You know, as if Shakyamuni Buddha was not completely enlightened one, that he couldn't finish giving teaching in 45 years. So there's a lot of traditional Buddhists have never thought through this, you know, never thought through this. Oh, just blatantly believes the Maitreya taught this to Sangha, and then so on and so on. But there's no room to actually. You can always give some kind of mystical slant to things. Someone appear in the meditation and so on and so forth. I think that kind of deification of role of the deities are often mentioned in hagiographical literature, but I don't think you need to authenticate the source to divine when humans are who need to need to learn about it. It might be so divine, but we couldn't relate to it. Is that right? No. It is so humane that we should be able to relate to it. So I've been thinking about this because even the 17th Karmapa a few years ago, I watched one of his videos. He said there's really some doubt about whether Maitreya actually taught this text or not. you know. Of course, he has got a much a great standing in Buddhist circles to say that. Scholastically speaking, there's a lot of difficulties in thinking as Maitreya wrote it. But Asanga definitely may have had pure visions of Buddha or others who may appear like a Maitreya. You know, and Maitreya. I don't know who recognized Maitreya, because if you haven't seen one, you can't recognize anybody. Don't you? You have to have seen him before so that you can recognize him later. So how could anybody recognize a future Buddha? It's like saying you can recognize your unborn child, you know. There's a lot of problem there. Anyway, let's not get delved into that. Now, today's topic is the second chapter, which is going to talk about the fifth Vajra point, which is enlightenment. And on the few verses that we finished with the previous chapter talked about the demerits of not learning about Buddha nature, and benefit of listening Buddha nature, and so on. So now the second chapter is enlightenment or Buddhahood itself, and then the third chapter is the qualities of the enlightenment. Fourth is the activities of enlightened one. So that's what the 4 chapters we have. Yeah, but the biggest chapter is finished. You know. The other 3 chapters are still relatively big, and so today we're going to start the second chapter called Enlightenment, fifth Vajra point, talking about how the Buddha nature, when it is nurtured by knowing its intrinsic nature and qualities that is present in all sentient beings, everybody become a little bit more keen to look within themselves and try to practice what is it that their Buddha nature isn't so manifesting. You know, why is it so covered in obscurations? And so fully enlightened one, the enlightened Buddhas have already done that. So therefore we're going to look at the qualities of enlightenment. The enlightenment, what constitutes enlightenment? Because the enlightenment reveals the Buddha nature in its full-fledged cultivated Buddha nature. We have the natural abiding Buddha nature, and if natural abiding Buddha nature is cultivated, when it's fully cultivated, then it becomes enlightenment. So therefore we have to talk about the causes of purity. So we have these first 2 verses 168 and 169 before you. I have numbered these points for your benefit and for my own benefit, because these 2 verses are actually one sentence. It could be so when it first says purity. So first, the purity goes with the nature, with the second, the 169. Purity is number 1, so is nature is 1. So the purity is the nature. Purity is the nature of enlightenment. What is the purity? The purity of dual purity. The purity is 2 kinds of true purity. What is the 2 kind of purity? Is the purity during meditative state of purity and post-meditative state of purity of enlightenment. And so therefore the enlightened one has the purity during the meditative state as well as post-meditation period. A lot of people are very, very serene and peaceful in meditation, but they don't have the same serenity after the meditation. You know, even they have, this disappears and fades away very quickly. The enlightened one has a purity in the meditation that is almost identical even in the post-meditation. So there's double purity. So this double purity usually sometimes is related with the Dharmakaya and the Rupakaya, because the Dharmakaya is for one's own purity and meditative state, and Rupakaya is for the sake of the benefit of others. So your purity manifests to benefit others. So therefore the purity is the endowing the true purity is the nature of the enlightenment, and then when it says second, the attainment goes with the cause. You know, attainment goes with the cause because the purity, the enlightenment itself is attainment from the meditative and post-meditative state of meditation. So therefore, attainment itself is the cause caused by the two purities. Yeah, attainment is caused by the two purities of meditative state and post-meditative, and then the third one is called freedom. So what is the attainment? Attainment is free of freedom from the obscuration, which is the fruit. So it goes with number 3. Freedom goes with the fruit. And then the benefit for oneself and others, benefit for oneself and others is the function, Buddha enlightenment, What is the function of enlightenment? It is to benefit for oneself and others, So that's why those two verses that number have to match. But when you translate, in Tibetan, when you read like that, you have no idea what those lists are. So the first verse, all the eight things I have listed matches with the second verses, because these are the presentations of Buddha presentation of the enlightenment of the Buddhas, nature, cause. So you can actually read backwards, and. The presentation of the level of Buddha's nature is purity, double purity, that which causes the enlightenment, and as a cause by enlightenment you gain the fruit, which is freedom from the obscurations, and the function of that is to benefit for oneself and others, benefit of others, so that brings us up to the fifth one. Fifth one. The fifth one is the endowment. So when it refers to the endowment, meaning that the endowment is more like the basis or support of the qualities, because you cannot have endowment unless there is one who is endowed with. So therefore, endowment is the basis. So the basis is the one who's endowed, one which is getting the endowment of, and endowment itself is the qualities. So qualities is endowed on the basis of the attainment of the freedom from the obscuration, and freedom means freedom from obscuration, and due to the double purity. And then when it says the sixth one, it's called manifestation. The manifestation of enlightenment are profound, vast, and great being. There are three, This profound refers to the profound Dharmakaya. So this number 6 refers to the three kayas. Profound refers to Dharmakaya, and vast refers to Sambhogakaya, and then the great being refers to Nirmanakaya. So therefore, the enlightened one's manifestation is three kayas. So this shows that texts like Uttaratantra is a very good source from which the three kayas are taught. The enlightened being has three manifestations. Three kayas. We try to attain the three kayas. So when you have attained three kayas, the three kayas, first one is profound, because nobody knows Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya is very vast and very, very deep. But when you realize Dharmakaya, then you are able to manifest the Rupakaya. Because Dharmakaya is the double purity of the first purity of the Dharmakaya, and the other purity is purity of Rupakaya. So the Sambhogakaya, which is vast, and the Nirmanakaya is with great, these are both Rupakayas. So two Rupakayas and one wisdom kaya. Wisdom kaya and form body. Form body. So that's why the number 6, which is manifestation, has the three kayas: profound, vast, and great being. So great being is like someone like historical being like Shakyamuni Buddha, who took the excellent Nirmanakaya manifestation as a great being, is called Mahasattva. Some people translate as Mahatma. But in Buddhism, we don't say Mahatma, we say Mahasattva. Mahasattva. Because people think Atma is Atma is a dirty word in Buddhism. So we say Mahasattva, because all sentient beings are sattvas. They're just hina sattvas. All sentient beings are hina sattvas. They're small sattvas, just thinking of me only. The great being Mahasattvas think of all sentient beings. So Shakyamuni came to the world thinking for the sake of all sentient beings. He then manifested as Nirmanakaya. So that's the second purity of benefiting others. Yeah. So these two verses are very, very profound source of Mahayana teachings of the three kayas, and that's just this is just the summary. Yeah, this is just the short version of it, and then we have the detailed explanation, all of these 8 in the rest of tonight's teachings. So you think we have done very detailed explanation with that? No, that's just a brief summary of it, and then so the 7th one is the which it refers to, and these 3 manifestation that is profound Dharmakaya and vast Sambhogakaya and great being Nirmanakaya will remain permanently, will not disappear, in 3 weeks' time. It's not a 3-weekend show, it's that unless all sentient beings are liberated, so therefore until sentient beings are liberated. So therefore it is called permanence. Permanence shows the duration. The duration of the manifestation of the enlightened ones are therefore good, and therefore there is no time that these 3 kayas are not manifesting. It's just question is what kind of sentient beings have the merit to access themselves, the teaching through Nirmanakaya or Sambhogakaya. Nobody can access teaching from the Dharmakaya. Remember, Dharmakaya is the purity of himself. He's attainment. It's a state of emptiness. We can't receive from the state of emptiness. We are only able to access the benefit from the form body. So that's why we rejoice the Shakyamuni Buddha's coming to the world, which is that therefore the Vesak Day is his coming to the world, giving birth of himself, coming to the world. Is his come? That's Shakyamuni Buddha has come, but he's never left. So we don't. Some people, when I heard some of the Vesak ceremony overseas, and those monks getting really, really serious and very elderly, very senior, but they use the word death. I couldn't believe they talk about death of the Buddha. It's such an un-Buddhist, let alone monastics using such a. Buddha has no death. Because there was no birth. His manifestation, Nirmanakaya, is just manifestation. It's just an apparition of Dharmakaya. So Dharmakaya doesn't get born and die, So that's why, of course, conventionally we call birth and passing away. So therefore, the duration, which is 7th one, duration of the 3 manifestation is permanent. Not short period of time, and because of that, the enlightenment is inconceivable. Inconceivable, yeah. Therefore, the enlightenment is this reality as it is, because enlightenment is the nature of suchness as it is. It could not be conceived, it could not be comprehended, it could not be articulated, it could not be expressed by anybody. Even if they do, they're not even scratching the surface of it. So therefore, these eight are the presentations of the Buddhahood. So Buddhahood can be explained under these 8 topics. That's the summary of tonight's teaching. Now, and of these 8 points are the. So you can say, the enlightenment has 8 points. So what are the 8? You list the second verse: nature, cause, fruit, function, endowment, manifestation, permanence, and conceivable. And then go back to say, okay, what is the nature of enlightenment? It is double purity, and so on. So they go like that. All of these 8 will be explained extensively, and firstly explain the first 2. Brief explanation on the 2. First one, nature of enlightenment and cause of enlightenment. So it is covered in this. First is the nature and cause together. Yeah, brief explanation: nature and cause together, and then later they will explain the detailed explanation nature, detailed explanation cause, and then detailed explanation of the rest of the other 6. So there's a very rich cuisine there tonight. Do you have an appetite? You should be pretty hungry. There's an 8-course dinner there. Anyway, so it is said that enlightenment is luminous nature. So we're talking about the nature, yeah? It is said that enlightenment is of luminous nature because enlightenment is the nature of the mind, Enlightenment is nature mind revealed without any of the obscuration. Is similar to sun, yeah. So the nature of the enlightenment being luminous, and therefore that is the subject, and that is the subject. The subject is similar to the sun, because the wisdom of the enlightenment is very bright like the sun. So much so that it knows the nature of all conventional and ultimate things as it is. Because of its in luminous nature, it is devoid. It's like the space. Space is devoid of adventitious obscurations, affliction, and knowledge obscuration. So this gives the two obscurations, yeah, adventitious affliction and knowledge obscuration. So usually we call afflictive obscuration and knowledge obscuration. So remember, we were just talking before the double purity. When you do not have these 2 obscurations, then you have the double purity. Otherwise, this double obscuration. We have double obscuration. So we have also double. We have double obscuration. Buddha's got double purity. So our gross obscuration is afflictive obscuration, and our subtle one, which we don't even know, is a knowledge obscuration, thinking I am me. This kind of grasping to I with the body or name and so on. This is the knowledge obscuration, because even if we know somebody's name, but that's only name, but not him, we don't know the person. We only know the name. So therefore, that's called knowledge obscuration. Knowledge obscuration. And the knowledge of both of these adventitious obscuration, but when the adventitious obscuration is removed, then it is like the space, because space is never covered by the clouds. The obscuration is like a thick cluster of clouds. Yeah, obscuration. Even your afflictions sometimes manifest stays very dark for a couple of days, maybe a few hours, and thank goodness, and then all of a sudden it becomes very clear, isn't it? Even our obscurations are cloud-like, but the cloud never actually covers the sky. Free of stains, Buddhahood is endowed with the Buddha qualities. Yeah, so because the nature of the sky is devoid of any intrinsic obscuration, Buddhahood is therefore firm, stable, and immutable. Because it actually has no obscuration whatsoever from its own nature. So that clarity, that state which is beyond or devoid of obscuration, was achieved on the basis of non-conceptual and analytical meditation with regard to phenomena. So we were talking before 2 types of meditation. The the non-conceptual meditation and analytical meditation. Non-conceptual meditation is meditative state meditation. Analytical meditation is post-meditative state meditation. So remember, we're talking about the attainment. The attainment is caused by these two meditation. Meditative state meditation in non-conceptual meditation and post-meditation analytical meditation, isn't it? Even post-meditation we are always analyzing, isn't it? So that's the attainment. So that's an attainment achieved on the basis of these two meditative states with regard to phenomena. In the meditative state, enlightened mind is remaining in the double purity of non-conceptual meditation. There is no thought, there is no idea of thinking or idea of finishing or starting the meditation in the actual meditative state of non-conceptual meditation. This is the enlightened ones, yeah? But when by post-meditationally, when for instance, when the Buddha met Angulimala, and when Buddha converts his nephew or somebody into Dharma, he's using analytical meditation, post-meditationally, still in the state of non-conceptual, but for the sake of the other, like Ananda or Devadatta, he used analytical meditation with regard to phenomena called other people. But for himself, it's always in non-conceptual meditation. We should also will try to do that, try to stay in that meditative state of non-conceptual state, but only for the sake of others we might say a few things, just to it's like the mother who's feeding the baby with the food, even though she's not hungry, she's just feeding the baby. Feeding the baby. So Buddha is all out of his compassion, is always helping sentient beings due to his double purity. So that's the brief explanation of nature and cause of the enlightenment together. Because the analytical meditation is necessarily post-meditational. Post-meditation means post-meditation of the non-conceptual meditation. Non-conceptual meditation of the actual meditative state. Because with regard to phenomena means that when you have to deal with sentient beings, then you have to use post-meditational interactive meditative state teachings. Buddha is never not in meditative state when he's teaching. He's not sort of getting out of the meditation and put on a civil cloth and then give the teaching. It's not like Buddha is always in the meditative state, but he appears in the eyes of the other, as if he's spoon-feeding sentient beings with the teachings, this and that, and making analogies and telling stories and so on. But that is totally with regard to phenomena like sentient beings. Buddha himself is always in the Dharmakaya meditation, Dharmakaya meditative state, but manifest differently to the delighting and benefiting of the other phenomena, such as sentient beings who are needing to learn that. So that's the summation of the both nature and cause of the enlightenment. So nature and cause of enlightenment. Now the detailed explanation of these two individually. Firstly, the detailed explanation of nature. So the nature has four. Now we elaborate means detail. Nature of the Buddha nature, in enlightenment, Buddhahood is indivisible. So firstly, the wisdom of the Buddha is indivisible. Meaning that it is indivisible, but it is categorized due to its dual purity. Because from the point of view of the purity of the adventitious obscuration, when the adventitious obscurations are abandoned, And therefore, it's like the cloud. Cloud has never been part of the sky. Like adventitiously, it's covering, looks like covering, but sky has never been covered. Sky only looks like covered to the people who are trying to look at the cloud. But sky has never been covered by the clouds. There, you will never see a news saying the sky has been covered by clouds. No, there's never been cloud. It's only people looking at there sees because they couldn't see the sky. They say cloud covered in the sky. Adventures. So the actual sky itself is totally free. Totally free, due to dual purity. It is both that adventitious obscuration is totally free of the Buddhahood. Buddhahood has never been obscured. The two specific features, the primordial wisdom and the freedom, are similar to the sun and the sky. So this is referring to that the primordial luminosity of the quality of Buddha is indivisibly benefiting sentient beings and causing the freedom freedom from the adventitious obscuration clouds. So therefore, it's similar to the sun and the sky. Sun and the sky, because sun and the sky, when the sun and the sky. So therefore we are talking about the wisdom and freedom from obscurations and the qualities, those three. And the fourth one is the devoid of obscuration. So unconditioned luminous nature is indivisibly engaged in the nature of beings. So meaning that the luminous nature of the enlightenment is engaged, means permeated, indivisibly permeated in the nature of beings. All of us is also permeated by the very nature of our luminous nature of the mind. Nature of mind, but the adventitious obscuration that our mind is clouded by are separable like the obscurations. Because of that, the adventitious obscuration are abandonable from the mind, and therefore both afflictive and knowledge obscuration is like clouds, like clouds in the sky, because the clouds are never nature of the sky, but nevertheless it is spreading across the sky. But it is adventitious and removable, and it is perishable or disappearable by any time. So disappearability of the cloud is like our adventitious obscurations are disappearable, isn't it? Thank goodness. Thank goodness. And yet, when it is not disappearing, it is completely fused and permeating with your mind, as if you are losing your mind, losing your mind. So this is the nature of the Buddha nature. Buddha nature is never increased or decreased, or doesn't have to be bettered, or doesn't have to be improved. But when it is subjected to this analogy of the sky and the sun and the cloud, and of course the cloud aspect of the analogy is the removable adventitious obscurations, but the removable adventitious obscurations are never part of the nature of the sky. But nevertheless, it is permeating the very sky as if it is. And so that is the brief explanation of the this as the afflictive cognitive obscuration are by nature non-existing. They don't exist at all, but yet they are pervasive because your mind is completely permeated by it, and nevertheless that pervasive cloud-like adventitious obscuration are adventitious. They are disappearable anytime. So therefore, they are said to be like covering clouds. So that's the explanation of the nature. Nature was verse number 173. And now the detailed explanation of the second one, which is the cause of enlightenment. Cause of enlightenment. So you have to cause of attainment enlightenment is to attain enlightenment. Those two obscurations, he says that the causes to release from the two obscurations are two wisdoms. Yeah. So the cause to release the two obscurations are two wisdoms. Yeah, two wisdoms. Remember two wisdoms? What are the two wisdoms? It is asserted that these two wisdoms, the two wisdoms are non-conceptual meditative state meditation and post-meditational analytical meditation. These are the primordial wisdoms. So the cause of enlightenment, therefore the cause of enlightenment is the two wisdoms, basically two wisdoms. And if you have the two wisdoms, then the two obscurations removed. Some of you will know that we talk about accumulation merit and accumulation wisdom, yeah? So accumulation merit removes the adventitious obscurations. Accumulation wisdom removes the knowledge obscurations. Yeah, but here it's actually discussing more subtle level, saying that the non-conceptual, which is the meditative state wisdom, and post-meditative analytical meditation removes those two obscurations, respectively, the adventitious obscuration and knowledge obscurations. So this is a very important point, because when the cause is the nature is those four qualities, and the cause of those four qualities are these two wisdoms, for the two wisdoms. And if that's the cause and the nature relationship, then what is the result of it? Okay, so now the verse number 175 goes to explain the result. This has the result is freedom from. Result has two: freedom from afflictive obscuration and freedom from knowledge obscurations. So. Yeah, so this first you have to gain freedom from the afflictive obscuration, then you gain from the freedom from knowledge obscuration. You don't even know that we have knowledge obscuration. And some people, we don't even know they have afflictive obscurations. They think that it's all out there, the problem. Problem is all out there. The Mahayanas have stopped thinking like that, yeah? Stop thinking, pointing finger out there, you know, or to anybody, or on somebody action, or not even to your action anymore. This is very good, you know. People are blaming themselves. Oh, you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have done that. Now, when we're talking about the afflictive obscuration, recognizing the afflictions. Afflictive obscurations are recognizable only when you know that you are doing things under the sway of the influence of the obscuration. It's like person who's driving. When he's drinking is dangerous because drinking influences his quality of driving. Likewise, the person's actions are not really to blame. The driving is not to blame. If he drinks and drives, then the driving is a blame. So that's why the afflictive obscurations is the first removal of the afflictive obscurations is the first result, and then removal of the knowledge obscuration is the second result. So first one is like a lake of pure water. This is a very beautiful analogy. So, because the afflictive obscurations, such as desire, it says like a lake of pure water, gradually overspread by lotuses. Lotuses, and like the full moon released from Rahu's mouth, and the sun freed from cluster of clouds. Now, these three clauses are very important. Yeah, these three clauses should be separated, because these three clauses respectively relates to desire, hatred, and ignorance. Like a lake of lotus, gradually overspread by lotuses, is talking about the afflictive obscuration desire. When the desire is released, then the qualities of the immaculate water will make the lotus blossom. So like a lake of pure water gradually overspread by lotus. So that is the analogy of the afflictive obscuration of desire being removed. Yeah. Like a lake of pure lake gradually overspread by lotuses, your desire as of obscuration is removed. And then the second clause, like the full moon released from Rahu's mouth, this is the referring to the removal of the afflictive obscuration of hatred, because the Rahu refers to the planetary god. This is like a little bit of Indian and Buddhist mythology. Rahu is the one that causes the lunar and solar eclipse, so it is said, you know. And somebody said, oh, come over here and get some drink or nectar or something. And then the Rahu comes, you know. And Rahu not only drank the so-called nectar, but Rahu also swallowed the moon with it. He was angry because he was not allowed to drink the whole thing, you know. He said, that's not just for you, it's only a little bit for you. And also, but Rahu was so angry that he was not, then he swallowed the moon with it. And then someone else hit the horse hit the hoof of the horse's hoof on the neck of the Rahu, and the Rahu lost the moon through his broken throat. So the full moon got released from the Rahu's mouth because Rahu couldn't swallow the full moon. But it's always lunar eclipse is always on full moon. You should know that. Always full moon. So there's a little bit of a story about that. But here it is most important thing, analogy is that the hatred, the obscuration of hatred, when the obscuration of hatred is released due to the power of the radiance of loving kindness and compassion, loving kindness, compassion, which is the full moon. When the loving kindness, compassion radiates, then the obscuration of hatred, like Rahu, releases, and therefore full moon becomes very bright. When you have no hatred, then you will full of loving kindness. You can't have loving kindness with hatred. So these two doesn't go hand in hand. Yeah. So that's why when the obscuration of hatred is released from the Rahu's mouth, then the full moon, like a loving kindness, will beam. So that's the analogy of the freedom from hatred. Then the sun freed from the cluster of clouds, Now this is the third one, third clause. This is analogy of the removal of ignorance, afflictive obscuration of ignorance. Then when the quality of the freedom from the afflictive obscuration ignorance, then due to lack of ignorance, then the sun's bright light will completely shine, illuminate, leaving no traces of clouds. Leaving no traces of clouds, because all the clouds has been completely released. Being free from the impurity of possessing this quality, it is that which possesses brilliance of light rays. So this sentence is quite dense. If you don't have the commentary, you wouldn't know. So those three clauses refers to desire, hatred, and ignorance. That desire has been used as obscuration for the lotus that is usually covered by things. But when the lotus is when the obscuration of desire is not there, then the water makes the lotus very bright and bloom inside the water without soil by the water. Yeah, the water doesn't soil the lotus, And why? Because the lotus is no longer stained by mud or other kind of marsh or other kind of dirt or filth in the lake, for instance. Yeah, the water will take care of all the dirt and to make the lotus even more pure without tainting the lotus. So that's the kind of example of how the one who has no desire looks very beautiful. Enlightened being has no desire. So because there is no desire, there's no possessiveness, there's no jealousy, none of the other affliction comes with it. This because there's this ever beautiful lotus. The water just adds augment to the brightness and beauty of the lotus. It does not hinder it. And when the hatred is released, then compassion of loving kindness and compassion blossoms like a full moon. Because there's no hate of Rahu. The hate of Rahu is not present here. So hate of Rahu is not present, and when the cluster of clouds is not there, then the sun is completely bright. And so likewise, those three. The freedom from impurity refers to the three poisons. Possessing quality refers to the quality of non-attachment, quality of loving kindness, and quality of wisdom. Is that which possess the brilliance of light rays. So that's the explanation of freedom from afflictive obscuration. Now the freedom from the knowledge obscuration is captured in next verse. Like the Supreme Buddha. Now this lists all the 9 analogies we have gone through. 9 analogy of Buddha nature. 9 analogy of Buddha nature, because the Supreme Buddha is the Buddha that is covered in the lotus, covered in the mud or lotus, covered in the mud. When the lotus doesn't blossom, Buddha is still covered in the lotus. So we couldn't see that. And the honey is the analogy of the bee. When the bee is not there, then the honey will. So the knowledge obscurations are all the 9 analogy of the Buddha nature. And when the knowledge obscurations are not removed, then the nine analogy of Buddha nature is covered by the 9 obscurations. So this verse is the non-obscured analogies of the 9 Buddha 9 analogies of non-obscure Buddha nature. So that's why the Supreme Buddha, the honey, the grain, precious gold, treasure, the tree, the Sugata statue of immaculate precious material, ruler of land, the king, this ruler of land is the ruler of land is the analogy of the Buddha nature, and the mother who's pregnant and have the baby of who will be future Buddha is the obscuration, and the golden image is the Buddha nature that is covered in dirty clothes. Remember, so therefore these are all respectively embody the abandonment of the nine obscurations. Yeah, when all the analogy of nine obscuration removed, then all the nine analogies are nine analogies of knowledge obscurations. Can you understand? Yeah, call it nine analogy of knowledge, removal of the knowledge obscuration. Then the Buddha nature is completely manifesting, because the cultivation of the Buddha nature, cultivated Buddha nature, removes the obscuration. Yeah, but the Buddha nature itself is not tainted by any of the obscuration. You know, but the adventitious and afflictive obscurations of the ordinary sentient beings are not enlightened, because they do not know how to free themselves from the obscuration, and because of that, they have to gain freedom from the knowledge obscuration. Because the enlightened one, this is the talking about enlightenment. Enlightenment itself is a freedom from all the nine obscuration, and therefore all these nine analogies of Buddha nature are bright and clear. You know, so we went through the nine analogies of the Buddha nature, from the beginner's practitioner to the bodhisattvas and the fully enlightened one. We divided into 4 portions, didn't we? So as we showed in the chart in the last session in the previous term. If you look at that, we really would know. So that's how Asanga's writing is very immaculate dispensation of the whole Buddha nature and the teachings on the path. And so that concludes the freedom from the knowledge obscuration. And now the third one is what is the cause of that? Yeah. So what is the cause of that? Cause of that, yeah. So what is the cause of both these two? You know, cause of these two freedoms: freedom from afflictive obscuration and knowledge obscuration. What is the cause of attainment of that? Is covered in next 2 verses, 177 and 78. Like the water of a lake and so forth. So meaning that the water in the lake has the 3 characteristics. Now this is explaining, yeah, the 3 characteristics, meaning 3 characteristics of the adventitious obscuration, like the desire. So the desire is the adventitious obscuration, and like the water might be covered with some dirt or rubbish or some various debris floating, and therefore not allowing the lotus to manifest clearly, isn't it? But even though the lotus itself is very clear, the water is there, but still due to temporarily the movement of the lotus, the rubbish and others floating on the water may cause temporarily the lotus to be hidden. Yeah, lotus to be hidden. So like the water of the lake and so forth, purity from the obscuration, adventitious obscuration, desire and so on. Desire and so on refers to the hatred and ignorance, is fully stated as the fruit of wisdom without conception. So this is talking about the wisdom of wisdom, the meditative state is the 3 analogies, three remedies, because during the what we call attainment of the Buddhakaya, that is perfect from all sides, is taught as the subsequent result of primordial wisdom. So we're talking about subsequent result of the meditative state of meditation, which is non-conceptual meditation. So non-conceptual meditative state meditation has a subsequent result of the primordial wisdom in the post-meditative analytical state of meditation. Because of the eradication of the knowledge obscuration, the quality of the eradication knowledge obscuration, it is therefore perfect in from all sides, means perfect from its own side, and therefore it is taught as a subsequent result. So subsequent result of the primordial wisdom. So this is talking about the what caused the freedom from the two obscurations by these two verses. So now, so that concludes the explanation of the result. Now that's a brief explanation. Now the detailed explanation of the result is extensive result of the perfect liberation. So the perfect liberation is the actual result, perfect liberation. This has the extensive result of perfect liberation. Yeah. and the conducive qualities, having eliminated the silt of desires. So meaning that the silt of desire is removable. Silt of desire is removable. Even your mind is full of desire or something, that is removable. Why? Because you will see a pond of water that was dirty only a couple of days ago, almost like impossible to swim or drink or do anything. But some days later, it is so pristine, clear, you wouldn't know where did all the dirt go. The nature of the water is not taintable by the temporary defilements. So like that, having eliminated the silt of desire, he lets the water of meditative stability flow into the lotus like disciples. So now this is how does the result of the enlightenment causes becomes the art of liberative art to guide sentient beings to become liberated. Yeah, guide sentient beings to become liberated. So he lets the water of meditative stability. His meditative stability is constantly flowing. Even we are today listening to these teachings. This is not my teaching. This is Buddha's meditative state. Fountain is flowing continuously. Flow into, I don't know, somewhere in Peshawar or somewhere in ancient Pakistan where Asanga wrote these texts. Asanga is said to spend a lot of time in Pakistan. Modern Pakistan, Peshawar. That's his birthplace, and he wrote these texts, and that spout, that fountain water is still flowing now. So flow into the lotus like disciples. We are completely coming clean now. All our lotus we are shining. We become happy. This text is wonderful. This teaching is wonderful, and that's what it says. Flow onto the lotus like disciples. Yeah. So therefore, the result of enlightenment is it waters, it cleanses the temporary adventitious obscurations of sentient beings, and this water that is flowing down is the meditative state of water. Water of the meditative state. That's why in the Buddhist ceremonies, empowerment, they always give the water from the vase during the peak of empowerment. The teachers spend 7-8 hours preparing whole day, imagining all the blessings, goodness, everything go into the vase. Then at the end of the preparation, he actually pours the water. So that everybody who has been moisturized by the bodhicitta water then makes the sentient beings to be washed under the fountain fountain, so that their temporary obscurations such as desire and anger, previously someone was so angry, and all of a sudden, until when they hear the fountain of water of Buddha's meditative state coming through the lineages, is then which resembles the lake of pure water. Yeah. Why the sentient beings are nurturing their Buddha nature is the water in which sentient beings are shining is the water of kindness of all the meditative state of the lineage masters, all the way coming from the Buddha. And it is the meditative state of the water of the meditative state of the Buddha that is liberating, that is causing the liberation. So the activities or result of the enlightened one causes the liberation of sentient beings from their temporary dirt, such like silt of desire. And the silt of desire, silt meaning dust or mud, and therefore usually it was completely covering the surface of the lotus. Yeah, not only surface the water, but not only surface the lotus, but also the water. And the water looks very murky and very, very dirty. Yeah, but through the meditative state, the water goes through a cleansing, and all the silt has avoided, and then all the sentient being like disciples will be resemble by the pure water of the Dharma. They are washed like no ordinary shower can wash them. No ordinary shower can wash them. Be that clean, that clean when they truly listens, contemplates, thinks, behaves, and meditate in the water of the Dharma. So that's the analogy of. Remember, we were talking about the analogy of the desire. The first phrase where the water is completely covered, overspread by lotuses with the silt, and now being washed. Now the detailed explanation of the second phrase is the Rahu's example. Freedom from Rahu's hatred. See, in the previous, it doesn't talk about hatred. It just says Rahu's mouth. So this is the Uttaratantra's native text. It takes one verse and it takes a little bit, mentions it briefly, and then goes to elaborate in the next couple of sentences later with the same analogy, and then saying Rahu has to do with hatred, and the lotus has to do with the desire, and so on. So here, that's what it says. Freedom from Rahu's hatred pervades beings. So that means the Rahu has been, because when the Rahu has released the moon is now immaculate full moon. Not only the full moon's radiance of full moon is very cool, very cooling the heat of hatred, cooling the heat of hatred. So the heat of hatred is like daylight, and the moon is the compassion, and the heat is like the hatred. Yeah, heat of the hatred of the day is cooled by the brightness of the moon's effulgence. So this is what we're referring to. Freedom from Rahu's hatred pervades beings with the radiance of great love and compassion. Yeah, why is the love and compassion is the antithesis of hatred? So when the result of this is talking about the result, result of enlightenment is such that it gives loving kindness, compassion. So no matter how angry someone is towards you, when you develop loving kindness and compassion, and then you have this immaculate full moon, like bright, cool, loving kindness, to understand that someone's hate towards you is completely cooled, the heat of the hatred from the other is cooled by your compassion, not only you will not be angered by them, their own anger subsides by the power of your cool effulgence of the moon-like Buddha nature. So this is talking about the liberative art of the result of enlightenment. If you have found meditation on loving kindness and compassion has reduced your anger towards somebody, which is very, very thing why people are drawn to Dharma, like no medicine can do that. No medicine can do that. No therapy can do that. I don't know, therapists can teach you how to reduce hatred. That actually makes you grow bigger. They actually say, oh, you should do this if he did that to you. Then in the meantime, the hatred itself is never dealt. Hatred itself is completely inflamed even more. You started 5 years ago with that hatred. After 5 years, then your hatred towards the object has never decreased. Your own wanting to ambush and take revenge has increased many more times. You have wasted all your time and money, and hatred has never shown sign of subsiding. That is the samsara. That is the samsara in which sentient beings are lost, and the Buddhahood causes that to change for the better. Change for the better. That's why people learn Dharma, and when they meditate on loving kindness and compassion, then they are able to have no hate with the hater. No hate with the hater, because absence of enmity is loving kindness. Loving kindness is not true loving to somebody who's loving you. That's attachment. So we have to distinguish loving kindness and attachment kindness. Most people practicing attachment kindness, thinking it's loving kindness. Or they're getting much closer to the mother and son and reconciling with the son and brother-in-law. These are patching up attachment, These are not destroying Rahu. Rahu is there. Rahu is hiding in the bush. The Rahu of hate is still there, The loving kindness is totally expunging, destroying, exterminating your hate towards anyone, particularly those who hate you. Then Buddha nature has totally liberated you from hate. So the practitioner, Buddha, they say, hatred never conquers hatred. Loving kindness and compassion can conquer hatred. Why? Because someone who is hating to you was only hating to you recently, but there was a lot of time they were not hating to you. They were amazingly kind, generous, giving this to you, doing this for you, and mutually giving to each other. And both of their loving kindness or attachment soured, and then they develop hatred. So then the reason how you can practice conquer hatred with the loving kindness is when somebody hates you, you say, oh, he doesn't really hate me. He actually loves me because he and I both lack wisdom. Both of our love has now turned into attachment and craving and self-importance. Therefore, it has worsened. It has deteriorated into this hatred. But actually, it is a real loving kindness. So his hatred is unrealized desire and unrealistic expectation, deludedly thinking I should be able to perform miracles to make him happy, which he has apparently discovered that I'm not. Therefore, he is hating me. So you understand his hatred. When you understand his hatred, you do not want to overcome hatred with hatred, because you can't do that. You can only conquer hatred with loving kindness. And when you can unseat someone's hatred to you, then it's real loving kindness. So Buddhism has to be very distinguishable from happiness and joy and love and attachment, They promote happiness, but Buddhism doesn't teach about happiness. They talk about joy, how to become joy, how to have joy that does not deteriorate into sadness and so on. But it doesn't talk. Real happiness is physical pleasure or something. These are never there to be reliable. It's just quickly, like a little blade of grass has a water on it. It won't last long, even its happiness. So knowing that the happiness does not last long and not getting attached to it, that's joy. That's a joy. And not being sad that you lost your friend or you lost your youth or lost your influence or something. That's not happiness. That's sorrow. So happiness causes more sorrow because it just quits. Happiness is just future suffering. The joy is even you lost it, you still are joyous, not attached to the pleasure. See, this is what with the real liberation. Result is the result of liberation, because you're no longer now in the mouth of Rahu. Wrath of the Rahu. The Rahu's hatred pervades in most people's mind, But when you have the radiance of love and compassion, then it is like the immaculate full moon that is no longer eclipsed by the cause of the eclipse. Our loving kindness is often eclipsed by hatred. Yeah, our understanding is eclipsed by misunderstanding. Our expectation is eclipsing our contentment, so we become discontented. So we need to understand these analogies. These analogies are not random. These analogies came from deep meditative realization. Of course, these are not original analogy of Asanga. These are all in Mahayana sutras. He listed all the sutras. Asanga is only synthesizing and drawing those and writing them in this particular order. But Buddha himself, in particular sutras, give these examples, analogies about Rahu being hatred, and so the cause of the lunar eclipse is the Rahu's hate. So that means. So we're talking about cosmic hate, cosmic hate. Cosmic hate eclipses the sun of loving kindness. Like the war in Ukraine is eclipsed by hate and anger. And then the understanding between two nations completely eclipsed. They look like really beautiful people and look like beautiful country and same culture, but completely eclipsed by the hatred. And so there is only death and destruction as if there was an eclipse. When the lunar eclipse, everything becomes dark. And you can see all the buildings become dark, only demolish. Everything is such a sad situation. So lots of people in their personal life, there's a lot of eclipse of hatred. Hatred eclipses loving kindness towards the mother. People lost the love towards mother, they hate the mother, or vice versa, And there is no chance of become free from the eclipse. It's dreadful. Eclipse usually is a couple of hours, but cosmic eclipse is very couple of hours, but people's hatred is a long time. We had one couple here tonight in the calm body meditation, and I was saying if you have a good discipline of meditating, even though you have leg pains and so on, you just have to be tolerant with yourself. And even though the pain is there in the meditation, not caused by your meditation, it is caused by your ill will and resentment that you have suppressed them in your gut so long. Now the meditation is bringing them up. And I said, if you really forbear in the meditation with pain, after the pain, you realize it's teaching you to let go your ill will, and I say you will never hate your dad or granddad or in-law like before. You will be completely free from the from the curse of ill will, and you'll be able to love them again. And he was shaking his head like this. It's not going to happen with me and my dad. And the mother was looking at him. Mother was really sad. Mother was looking at him. I'm sure you can better to do that. We should practice this. This will help you. Of course, this is his third class, so he's doing very well, you know. But you remember, lots of people's life are in the eclipse of the hatred. The Rahu's hatred is eclipsing their happiness, and so. Here we're talking about enlightenment. Buddha's enlightenment will empower sentient beings to set themselves from the dreadful long eclipse of hate. And then they will shine the radiance of great love and compassion to each other, and there will be no chill, no cold of the Rahus, causing the eclipse. Word eclipse is very good. Our hatred eclipses the love that you could be receiving or that you could be practicing. So. Attachment between two people is not unseating hate at all. It's just increasing more cause of future hatred. Attachment is a cause of future hatred, It's just a question of how soon. How soon? So attachment is never should not be promoted, People say, oh, we are so close, we cannot dare part. And they say, I can never leave my dog behind or whatever. So what are they talking about? They're so attached to the dog, they can't even practice. They can't even go to retreat. Is that helps to the dog? Hope so, but and the dog need company, that's for sure. But dog is quite happy to go in a kennel, and they will be looked after there, so he'd be perfectly fine, because you have an adopted son called dog. So you can let him stay in a hotel and have some toys, and you do that. But you think he needs me, and otherwise his life would be completely. And so in the meantime, one is eclipse. One eclipse from practicing, because your attachment is eclipsing you from freedom to practice, and that attachment is going to. Then you're angry that you can't have with your dog. Your dog is not allowed to retreat. All that sort of stuff. Quite interesting analogy I'm drawing there. So that's the elaboration of the Rahu, and then completely release from the clouds of ignorance. Now that's the third analogy. Third analogy is a cloud of ignorance, because when the immaculate sun, the brilliant sun, is no longer covered by the clouds of ignorance, then the cluster of ignorance, cluster of clouds of ignorance, completely liberated. Because of that, completely released from the clouds of ignorance and dispelling the darkness beings. Yeah, not only the enlightened one is completely free from the clouds of ignorance, but their brightness of their radiance of the wisdom. It says, dispelling the darkness of beings with the light rays of primordial wisdom. Yeah, primordial wisdom. Primordial wisdom is liberating, dispelling the darkness of all sentient beings. Then the Buddhahood, therefore, is similar to immaculate sun. So now you can see those three phrases in the verse number. In the previous, verse number 175 are elaborated in verse number 179, 80, and 81. This is how this text works, So if you don't study completely, you wouldn't appreciate the relevance of this. Because when you have heard the little, because I having having studied this and like the meaning of this verse number 179 and 81, read it, I was explaining them, and when even talking about 175, but usually that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen when you study. You first study verse by verse, and then you do not need to see the relevance of it. So this kind of way of explaining, little bit at the beginning, and then very broad in the middle, and then again summarizing at the end. That's called grain-shaped like teaching. Grain-shaped like teaching. So that you can swallow it's easy. Spoon-fed Dharma teaching, this one. So that you can use first small phrase, then elaborate it, and then summarize at the end. This is Asanga. Asanga means is unobstructable. Unobstructable in terms of his brilliance, his diligence, his wisdom, and his efficaciousness to present the Dharma of vast volumes of Mahayana literature in these couple of 100 verses. And this is what I remember very clearly when Khenpo Kedrup gave this teaching to his eminent Chogyam teaching. This is I was only like I don't know, that was 1978 or something, 78. No, 1974, just before we went to retreat. He came there and gave this teaching. He says, Nendu Tawu Shepa, Nendu Tawu Shepa means the teaching of this grain-shaped teaching. So the 7 Vajra points teaching of the Uttaratantra is grain-shaped teaching. It has a very brief outline at the beginning, then elaborate in the middle, and then conclusion. It makes everything very coherent, so the practitioner will be able to understand. Now, when you know the verses by heart, and of course you know the meanings of the verse, and you're just reciting the verses like this, and chanting verses. It just makes it bringing light in. It's just like you're pouring the bucket of wisdom meditation of the Buddha on you. You're enjoying the cool water. So, can you pour more? Oh, that's really lovely. Can you pour more? Oh, you're constantly washed under the shower of the meditative. It says the meditative flow. The meditative stability flow onto the lotus like disciples. The disciples' lotus is now washed of the dirt, of the hatred, of the ignorance, and therefore this is the liberative art of the result of Buddhahood. So Buddhahood is the result. If the Buddha didn't attain Buddhahood first, he could not teach. That's why the enlightenment became after a hard penance of 6 years. After passing the penance of 6 years of meditation, Buddha attained enlightenment. And then ever since that, he's been pouring the water. He's been pouring the water, and that water is continuously flowing. The water has never dried. Water is continuously flowing through the lineage masters and their devotion, their utter respect to the Buddha and the Dharma and Sangha, and then the student to this master to, and all the way to Asanga. Asanga is 4th century, remember? 4th century is not very recent, but no, it is very ancient. According to Buddha, 4th century is 600, 4th century is 900 years. Nearly 1,000 years after Buddha, So that's a long time, That's a long time. I mean, Asanga, when he write this book, that is 900 years after the Buddha's sutras were already published. Buddha's sutras were published not that early, about the first century AD. The sutras were published or committed to writing, and Asanga came, like say, in 400 AD. That is like say, like at least 250 years after this has been all published. So he read all those particular Mahayana sutras we mentioned, and then he put these things together. You can see how he was bathed by the flow of the meditative stability of Buddha's wisdom, and then he just could become brightly blossomed like the lotus. Yeah, like the lotus. And then he writes this in this cryptic, versified writing of Mahayana Shastra. His writing is Shastra, yeah? The Buddha's teaching sutra are called Buddha Vachana. Buddha Vachana means words of the Buddha, and Buddha Vachana is Ka, and the Shastras are Tencho. So that's why Asanga writing is Tencho. Tencho means he was shown the teachings. Ten means he was shown the teaching, and it restored him. The teaching cured him. Teaching changed him. Teaching completely transformed him. Teaching taught him, and it changed him. Tencho we call. Tibetan word ten means to show. Cho means to be healed. Oh, Asanga is completely healed. He's completely healed by the teaching. Healed by the teaching. Why? Because the Buddha's meditative state is causing the flow of water pouring onto disciple-like sentient beings who are being washed. So if you're studying and reading and meditating every day, which I believe most of you are, so I rejoice that, and you are also constantly shining and washing. When you come out of the shower and dry yourself, you look bright, don't you? It's like that. When you practice Dharma regularly, and you're always bright, and you're not going to be devoured by damn Rahu anymore. So you know how to keep the hands off Rahu. Tell the Rahu, hands off Rahu. You straight away do not let the agitation and aggression eclipse your kindness. And that is the result. So that's the result. So we have we have concluded tonight with the third one. With the third of the eight qualities of this topic, which is the 8 qualities of enlightenment. Buddhahood has 8 qualities, and these of the 8 qualities we have discussed the nature, cause, and the result. So with this we are going to conclude, everyone. Thank you very much. We're going to dedicate the merit. Keep bathing. Thank you.